Well, hello, and thank you everyone for joining us again for another edition of Spincast here at Stay Plugged In. I've got joining me my cohort, Kendall Smith. Kendall, how are you today?
I am doing well. I am staying quarantined and trying to keep busy. So I hope that you are well too. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, definitely doing good. Definitely doing good. And joining us all the way from South Carolina today, actually not too far from Charlotte, just I had to say it that way, is Cleo Lang. She is the VP of Social for the University of South Carolina Gaming Club. So Cleo, how are you doing?
I am also, staying home, quarantining, feeling fine, seeing as though my pastime is playing video games, so I never get too bored here. So
Understood. It's everybody's pastime is playing video games right now. It's gone through the roof for everybody pretty much. So, but we are very happy to have you on board today. Thank you so very much for joining us. So let's just kick it off with, Cleo, tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get involved with esports in general? How did it get you to the position that you currently have as VP of Social with University of South Carolina?
Right. So I went to a high school near USC, and I was never really into competitive gaming, except for I played a lot of Hearthstone and then competitively, and then my friend group, we all played League of Legends, and my one friend was really good at it. And so he got into contact with the esports people at USC because he was this budding talent or whatever that they wanted to have on their team. And because I was in that same friend group, hanging out with the same crowd, that was the club that I looked forward to going to when I started my freshman year at USC. Well, U of SC now. And in the first meeting, I was talked to the president, and I was talking to him, and I said, hey, is there a Hearthstone team? And he's like, no, but if you garner enough people and interest, then you can start your own team and we'll support you, right? And so it was very opening and welcoming and warm. And I was able to go on our Discord and get other people, and they actually made me captain of it, and we played a little short season of Hearthstone. We never really continued afterward, but at that point, I garnered some sort of attention that I was able to do work for the club. I had other ideas about helping vamp up our social media presence, increasing communication between the teams, and they were like, yes, how about you help us out with that? And people noticed me, and they elected me as VP of Social, and that is how I've got into this position and into the esports scene at UFC.
Gotcha. So a couple interesting points there, and I've heard this quite a bit, especially with student-led organizations like yours is, there's usually a little bit more flexibility there in terms of, for example, bringing on a new game like Hearthstone, one. And then obviously they're usually fairly open to ideas, such as it gave you an opportunity to kind of branch and use a different skill set other than gaming in the club scene. Would you agree with that? How's that all worked out?
Yes, I completely agree. Try to support all sort of facets of skills, not just being good at gaming. The college esports scene has a lot to do with networking as well. I mean, with any sort of business or organization, networking is a huge thing. So being able to communicate with others, and the one problem, a challenge that we have within the club is we don't really command what every team does. We're more of a command center in which we give support to teams when they need it.
Yes.
So.
Got it. So that can be a little tricky sometimes, getting everyone on the same page, probably.
Yes, and yeah, it's oh, who's on the Overwatch team? I don't know. Are they good? I don't know. But so my job, I increase sort of updating everyone. Okay, this is what the Overwatch team is doing. They're winning these games this week. The COD team is playing these games, such and such. So.
Yeah. And sometimes these organizations can be rather large in terms of how many members come in and through the doors, if you will. Talk a little bit about that. What's the size of your organization? Not an exact number, obviously, but rough estimate, and how many games are being played?
There's a good portion of people that do come in person, but it's not exactly representative because, um, again, people tend to just keep to their like team or group.
Mhm.
But maybe even I in our Discord we have like 500 members in it.
Wow.
But in-person meetings we'd probably have around like 50 people come. Um, and then if you add in with all the other teams, you're probably pushing between 150 to 200 in total active members of the club.
Yeah,
So
so that's pretty widespread. That's good. That's good. Now,
yes.
you talked about how you transitioned from playing Hearthstone to now being the social media person, if you will. Which one do you like better?
Um, I the thing about being competitive is that there's like that little thrill of playing, you
Yeah.
know? That's
Cool.
always fun. Yes, collaborating with the team. Um, I have to say I do enjoy I'm gonna have to say I enjoy being the VP of social more because I feel like I interact more with more teams and I get to understand what other people are doing and it's a whole like new I'm learning something new every day, really.
Yeah.
So
No doubt, no doubt. And that's one of the things I think surprises some people sometimes in respect to esports. Lots of times people will look at it as, well, it's they're playing a video game. But
yeah.
there are many different branches in the esports tree that can provide so many different opportunities, whether it's social media, shoutcasting, obviously production behind the scenes, et cetera. Talk a little bit about that. What goes on at some of your events and what are some of the other roles other than the actual gaming itself amongst the club?
Right. So just in general, like club positions, you have our president, Red. Um,
Which
again,
I believe there's no such person. I don't think that person exists. Inside
yeah,
joke. Inside joke for the viewers, but go
yeah.
ahead.
As far as we know, um, yeah, he's a sports management major, and usually whenever you think of sports management majors, you think of sports management in terms of like football or soccer, but he's interested in managing professional esports teams, which is kind of mind-boggling to a lot of people because it's not a common thing that you hear. So that would be one other aspect besides gaming, a sort of professional managerial job.
Mhm.
Um, let's see, again, networking, as I mentioned before. Um, man, esports is a huge business, which goes into the play of treasurer, getting sponsors for your team, um, because you have to travel sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, tournaments can be held just at your home online, but there are like LANs and big tournaments that you need to go to. If you want more support, if you want better players, you want to garner sponsorships to get the best in the field. It's it's kind of like a football NFL draft. You can see how much I know about football, but um, yeah. So these other bigger universities, you could kind of see the effects of having people doing well at those jobs
Yes.
because the university is providing them sponsorships and scholarships for better players, and they reach higher levels in the college esports echelons.
Yeah.
So
No doubt about it. And I think that's something all administrators will start to look more and more seriously at, regardless of the school. Because I've seen it. You're right. There's a broad landscape of some super competitive teams with scholarships and everything else, and then some that are just kind of starting to get going with a gaming club, if you will, and again everything in between. Where would you like to see South Carolina end up down the road? If you could look maybe 2 or 3 years forward, what improvements could be made there, do you think, to make that an even better club or better program?
right. So improvements would be communicating with the university more, which we have been doing, and trying to facilitate to create a space specifically for esports.
Mhm.
Um, it's a little bit of a demanding sort of organization, and that you need sometimes a space for the team to get together. So a room with enough Ethernet cable ports, cords, outlets, monitors, chairs, keyboards, mouse. Um, I think U of SC would benefit more, and the esports club would benefit more in growing in this sort of industry if we got a space like that to better observe and communicate within teams and amongst the teams.
Yeah.
So,
and it definitely would help the retention and recruitment aspect of things as well.
yes.
Of course, a number of kids would, especially a lot of kids want to go to USC for a variety of reasons, of SC for a lot of reasons, but obviously those that are interested in the gaming world specifically would all of a sudden, be opened up to that discussion as well based on facilities that you're able to present. So
Yes.
talk a little bit about your role as social media, VP of social. And really what I'm looking at is you hear and see so much bad stuff sometimes that kids, for lack of a better term, almost seem like they don't have common sense. They kind of boop, 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 send it out and then think, uh-oh, I sent it, it's kind of too late. So talk a little bit about that. Using social media as a medium to obviously get the word out is great. And there's so many positive things that it can be used for, but it can be a dual-edged sword, wouldn't you say?
Sure. Right. You have to put in a lot of thought into what you post. Obviously, you don't want to put down the first thing that's on your mind or anything. We got a good camera, a Nikon camera, so then we can get better pictures of events that are happening in the club. And so that was one of my ideas. And so that's how I direct what to post on Twitter and Instagram, our main social media platforms.
Nice.
So we have casual game nights where I go often and take pictures of people having fun at casual game night, because that showing that sort of side of the club makes people feel less intimidated because they think, oh, esports competitiveness. We do have a more casual side. I do come with the tournaments and take pictures of the teams having fun at the tournaments, and then compile all the photographs together and post the best ones, a slideshow on Instagram saying, oh, look what the club has done. Get people kind of go, oh, okay, if I join esports club, I get to do this and this, and I get to hang out with people that like doing this. That's the kind of message that I'm trying to put out in the social media.
Yeah, that's smart. As the saying goes, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So good idea by getting the camera and kind of publicizing it more so that way. I think that makes sense. And in terms of interest level for a freshman coming in on campus, how do they find out more about your club? How does that all work with enrollment and things of that nature to try to be part of that gaming club?
Right. So, University of South Carolina, and I'm sure a lot of other universities have these club fairs at the beginning of like a year or even every semester. Okay. And so, you set up the club table out there, and we have an information meeting on the first week of club meetings where freshmen are allowed to come in and we talk to them and answer any of their questions about what it means to be a part of esports club, what to expect, what kind of trips that we're going to take. We also post flyers on campus and then also post on social media with like graphics to get people's attention. So that's sort of advertising deal.
Got it. Let's talk about one additional topic. And something I've heard just from a lot of meetings that I've gone to within the esports world and everything in terms of the lack sometimes of diversity or inclusivity, especially amongst women in esports. So kudos to you, first off, obviously to hold the position there for VP of Social, because that allows others that are younger to view you and be like, well, she looks like me, and if she's doing that, it means I can do that. So I think that's awesome. Personally, I have a daughter myself, so anybody that she can look up to in any position really to understand that, hey, anything's possible, I think is always special. Talk a little bit about that. What do you see, not just amongst the club, but just in the esports scene in general with diversity?
I really appreciate you bringing up this topic, by the way. It makes me smile. Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of women, and you look at esports scene, like League of Legends esports, there hasn't been any women in the main esports scene.
Mhm.
And in our teams, especially, we don't have any women in our major teams. It's mainly all male.
Mhm.
Again, majority white,
Mhm.
but we do have female members that do come, and they just don't play in the professional teams. Of course, we push for that, and we hold auditions, and we don't discriminate based off the gender or whatnot. It
Sure.
just so happens that more men show up for the auditions. Usually you'd only have one girl show up for each team and sort of trying to be on that team.
Yep. No, understood. I think it starts at the foundation, meaning certainly being online and gaming, there can be sometimes some toxicity towards women or girls sometimes. So I think sometimes some of them will shy away because of that. But as you get older, there's certainly so many opportunities from a career path and things like that, especially on the STEM side or technology side of things, that for me, obviously, I would love to see that door open up even wider and more young ladies look at esports as a viable option, because I think it does create so many different career pathways. So
Yeah, me too. It's honestly so fun to play video games, and again, it's sort of the same thing as, playing soccer or whatnot, communicating with the team and winning. It's a good feeling. I get together with friends. League of Legends has this sort of tournament mode called Clash, where you
Mhm.
can have your own set of teams and they match you up with other compiled up teams, and you guys compete in these little mini tournaments. It's so fun, and I really wish more women would, you know,
Yep.
strive for that competitiveness.
Yeah.
Don't shy away.
No doubt about it. No, I agree, and I think hopefully, anyway, we'll start to see more and more of that as the esports world grows a little bit. I know my daughter plays with her friends, especially now, as
Yeah,
everyone's kind of on lockdown. She's a soccer player typically, but
yeah,
she can't be on the soccer field. But you hear her on the computer with her friends, and she's vicious. But I like
yeah.
to hear that. I like to hear that. So
Has a little bit of heat playing games.
yeah, she can be competitive, which is good. There's
Yes.
nothing wrong with that. Getting to that fine line and making sure you're on the right side of it, that's always good. So this will be a question, I guess, and I'll have Kendall probably help out with this a
Yeah,
little bit as
yeah.
well. Kendall, I know you do quite a bit with traditional sports as part of your role in general. What are some of the similarities that, Kendall, you might see between esports and traditional sports? And maybe, Cleo, you can kind of dovetail off of what her answer is as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I cover pretty much all of the traditional sports at the University of South Carolina, and then I also cover them outside of USC. And now getting into esports and kind of learning how to cover them too, I think the biggest similarity that I noticed between traditional sports and esports is just the amount of hard work that goes into both. And I think for esports, sometimes that might be overlooked, but for me, as someone who is in media and someone who is a journalist, it's really, really interesting to see how much hard work really goes into esports. A lot of people don't necessarily think so, maybe because you're not out there actually like physically exerting
Mhm.
yourself, so to speak, on a field. But I will say that these esports athletes are so incredible when it comes to their determination, motivation, and hard work that just goes into their craft. So I noticed that obviously with USC football players, basketball players, baseball players, but with esports athletes, it is the same thing. And I would love to stress that more and more and more as I continue to cover it, because I think it is something that should be noticed. So that's what I see as a journalist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cleo,
Um,
what would you add to that?
yeah, I completely agree. And I have a friend, shout out to my friend Danny. She is an Indian woman that is also into journalism at USC, and she does broadcasting for some of our esports games on our Twitch.
Nice.
So also added some from our previous discussion on diversity,
Mhm.
and also another professional aspect of the industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yes, there's a ton of work put into esports, and there's strain and there's like mental input and strategy. It's not, running at the enemy team and fire away at them,
Right.
but there is skill,
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I've practiced just for the heck of it, trying to see what the skill set level wise is. I have no shot against it. So,
Practice makes perfect.
I could practice for a year and I'd still have no shot. Couple last parting shots as we're running up against it on time here a little bit. What are some of the most, would you know anyway, what are some of the most competitive teams currently at U of SC?
U of SC. First, I will say the most interest that we get, and because it is the game with the most esports viewership and attention, is League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
I say in terms of success,
Mm-hmm.
our Overwatch team has done really well.
Awesome.
A semester ago, I'm pretty sure, or two at this point, they went to the ending bracket where Blizzard actually streamed their game. And if they had won the game, they would have been streamed on, now they are streaming the Overwatch
Mm-hmm.
games on like ESPN. If
Right.
they had won that game, they would have been on there. But anyways, they were streamed on the Blizzard Twitch channel, which is a big deal.
Yep.
And our Rocket League has won a lot, actually. And we have a huge Smash community as well. So many Smash players that come to our club meetings.
Yep.
And we have members in our club that are like number 1 and number 3 in the state in terms of Smash players. So
awesome. Has that developed any rivalries against other schools?
can you repeat that?
Sorry, has that developed any rivalries with any of those games against other schools?
We do have a consistent rivalry against Clemson. We keep up with that rivalry. Yeah.
No surprise there. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, we are pretty much up against it on time. But Cleo, again, my sincerest thank you for joining us today on Stay Plugged In for our Spincast. Anything that our audience can get, especially from people like you, I think is incredibly valuable. So thank you for your time. We wish you continued success at your position there. And hopefully we'll be able to circle back when things hopefully get a little bit back to normal, maybe in the fall, just kind of touch base, see how you guys are doing, and keep in touch. So we appreciate it. Stay safe. And as usual,
thanks, Cleo.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. We'll touch base again, okay?